Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this month's video series with Miss Darcia Tremblay, who is representing Silver Lining Solutions, her company.
Good morning.
And I'm going to hand it over to her so that she can introduce herself, her company, what they do, and how they can surely help you and the folks that you know that might need help when it comes to completing the Medicaid application process. So without further ado, Miss Darcia, thank you so much for being a featured guest today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. I am Darcia, the owner and president. I started Silver Lining Solutions back in 2016. We process Medicaid, Mass Health, long-term care applications for residents in nursing homes. I kind of fell into this position back in 2000. I want to say 2011. My youngest daughter was going into first grade, and I needed to find a job that I could work around their school schedule and their activity schedule. A friend of mine was doing Medicaid applications for a husband and wife team out of Middleton. I sent my resume on a Monday. They interviewed me Tuesday and hired me on Wednesday. And from there, I learned the ground up because I really didn't know the difference even between Medicare to Medicaid. What was the difference? And then when I found this application, well, they gave me the copy of the application, which at the time was only about 20 pages long, to know all the moving parts and components and assets and income, and to understand how all of that relates and the documents that are needed to submit an application. They really taught me from the ground up. I did end up leaving that company in 2015 and I actually was formally incorporated in 2016. We now do applications not only in Massachusetts, also for Maine, New Hampshire, and now Rhode Island. We just picked up a nursing home in Rhode Island. So it's amazing to be able to help people through this application process.
Well, I think that's amazing. And there are certainly so many people that can benefit from your services, even if they don't know it just yet. But surely by the end of this video, they're going to understand why. Just seeing the growth of your business is a true testament to what you do and why you're so successful. And I know that you're not going to toot your own horn, but I'm going to toot it for you. You are a member of the North Shore Chamber of Commerce, and you were recently featured on the front cover of their Impact magazine. And can you tell us more about that? Because that really is such an accomplishment. And I just want to congratulate you on that again.
I am so humbled and honored. North Shore Chamber of Commerce honored me with one of the 2022 Diamond Awards. It's for women in business that make an impact on business and leadership and everything that, as I just explained, the growth of my company. So I am totally honored. And the Chamber has just been a wonderful networking group for me and for Silver Lining Solutions.
The chambers are amazing because they really truly exist to support small businesses, and that's exactly what they do. And I love seeing someone like you who is at the very heart of what you do, a small business, but you do big things. You know, there's nothing small about the job that you're doing. But, you know, it's just great to be able to have someone like you that's local, that has the expertise that people need to navigate through this very complex process. You know, what are the top 3 things that, you know, folks should know about the Mass Health application? Because it is pretty complex.
It is really complex, and that's why these families will come and hire us. So when I first started, like I said, Massachusetts application was 20 pages long. It is now 36 pages long. It's very detailed, and people feel like, oh, well, I can fill out an application. And it's not just filling out the application. For each box that you check off yes to, there's a whole set of documents and verifications that you have to provide to them. So when we go to submit an application, we have, I'm talking like a stack. We sometimes have to send these documents because, of course, it's the state and they want everything in hard copy. We send boxes of documents to Mass Health because our policy is we meet with the families one-on-one. We offer them personalized service. We walk them through every step of the process. We collect everything. We become the liaison between the nursing home, the family, and Mass Health. So all communication, we're kind of like the hub of making it all happen. But the application, it is complex, and it is overwhelming. And I just met with a woman this morning, and I'm helping her with her dad's application. And she's like, what would people do if they didn't have you? Um, so it's a true testament to what we do, that we are able to help people and families through this complex mass health and Medicaid application process.
Absolutely. And so, you mentioned that you work with the nursing homes, you work with the necessary parties in order to make sure that this mass Medicaid application gets filled out completely. And as you're the liaison, can you explain how you work with elder law attorneys and kind of those relationships as well? Or like, even I know how important mass health and the Medicaid application is when it comes to even home care, right? Because
Right.
a lot of people can receive subsidized services through the government, but they have to be on Medicaid in order to receive that. So can you just kind of explain the different parties that you work with and how you integrate?
So we are non-attorneys that do process the application process. If a family has a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust, if there's a house that's joint ownership between a husband and wife, and one of them is going into the nursing home and the deed has to be switched over, we have about 15 different attorneys that we work with throughout the state that are able to help us with that process. Or if there's a question on a trust, I mean, we can submit a trust, but if there's been assets moved in and out of the trust inadvertently, we usually consult with the attorney that actually wrote the trust, or we consult with one of the attorneys that we work with just to confirm that the trust is a solid trust and that the Mass Health Legal Department isn't going to find any loops that they're able to just attach the assets to. And we also work with financial advisors to do annuities. I have just recently been licensed. I passed the licensing exam. Thank you. To be able to help spouses with spend down amounts and over assets, and setting up SPIA, which is single premium immediate annuities, to protect some assets for them as well. So it does get really complex. As I always say, nobody has the same stuff. No two applications ever look the same. So it's just a matter of gathering all the pieces, gathering all the documents, and knowing what to do with them. There is also a 5-year look back for all income and assets. So when we're submitting an application for June of 2023, Mass Health has a legal right to go back and look at all assets and income from June 2018. So if people have sold a house back in 2019, they want to see the closing documents, how much money, what did they sell? What was the asking price of the house to make sure it was sold for fair market value? What was the net proceeds of the house? Where did those proceeds get deposited? And then every transaction after that to make sure that money had not been given to any children, or there hasn't been any transfer of assets from that point forward. So again, it gets complex. You have to know what all of the pieces are, but that's part of this 5-year look back. Again, going back to trust, if a family had just put a house in a trust, say 2.5, 3 years ago, that trust really has to be undone, because the state is not going to accept a newly established trust within the last 5 years. So it's just working with all the families and making sure that they are aware that this 5-year look back does exist. One of the most frequently asked questions that we receive is like a spouse still living at home saying, my husband has to go into the nursing home. Am I going to lose my house? And we reassure them that they will not lose the house. The state's not going to kick them out of the house. They don't have to sell their house.
So just to recap, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the 3 main things that folks should really be aware of when it comes to the mass health application, aka Medicaid, is that number one, it's a very complex process, and there is a lot of detailed information and documentation that has to really be kind of submitted with that. So it's not your typical application, which is why you exist. And just being able to have you as the liaison who knows the questions to ask, knows the contact people, it really is best to let someone with the expertise handle that. And, you know, it's worth your peace of mind to spend an extra a few bucks in making sure that everything gets done properly and in a decent amount of time. The second thing that you talked about was the SPIAs, so and spousal annuities. So making sure that you have something like that set up, depending upon, you know, the situation, everything, there are no two situations that are the same. So obviously you meet with people, you figure out what they need, what they're looking for, and what you can do to help them. And then third, you said about the 5-year look back period. So if someone thinks that they can go and just sign their house over for $1 and, oh, okay, well, I'm good, you know, I have no assets. No, because if it's within that 5 years of the application process, then it is fair game. And so
Right.
can you tell me, you know, how long does it usually take for the mass health application process from start to finish?
From start to finish, it can be anywhere from 3 to 4 months is the average. We have been able to get some of our cases approved within 45 days. One of my case managers, she's amazing. And she's been able to like whip through these cases. Doesn't happen all the time. All depends on the stuff and assets that people have. There is also a spend down process. So when single individual applying for Medicaid has to be under $2,000 in assets, a spouse can keep up to $148,000 in assets. Our fee is one of the allowable spend down expenses. We also work with them to set up prepaid funerals. So there are a lot of moving pieces from our initial meeting with the family to the time we submit the application and gather all the bank statements, gather all the documents, monitor the spend down, and then from the time we submit the application to an actual approval can be anywhere from, let's say, 45 days to 3 months out.
A message that we have been trying to spread for as long as I can remember is plan ahead, right? These aren't the most fun things to talk about. No one really wants to do it. It's kind of like cleaning a house. Do you really want to clean your house? No, but you have to do it, right? So planning ahead. And for this, you know, when you say that the mass health application, it does take, you know, 3 to 4 months, maybe even longer, depending. You know, when someone begins that process, they still have to privately pay for their services while that process is ongoing. Is that correct?
It is until the application is submitted. So Mass Health does have a 90-day rule for benefits prior to an application date. So we are able to go back 3 months from an application date. We obviously don't prefer to do it that way. We prefer to move forward. So we're following somebody's spend down until an application is submitted. And it all becomes a timing issue. I had one family that tried to submit an application and the father still had over $500,000 in the bank account. So it went, by the time they came to me, we had to private pay the nursing home to get caught up to that new application date. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to help them as best I could because we had to go back I think it was almost 10 months of time that they had to private pay to help utilize the spend down. So it's a timing issue. We like to get started as soon as possible,
Right.
just so that we can help monitor that spend down to make sure that there hasn't been any transfer of assets, help to get all of the documentation together, help to, you know, monitor the assets. Because a lot of times, as you said, the families don't even know what the parents have out there. Do they have stocks? Do they have life insurance? Is there a CD that had been opened and closed? A money market account, an IRA. There's so many moving pieces that could be out there that the children really don't know. So they're helping us and we're helping them. We work together to get all of the documentation together to get the full asset picture and then to move forward from there.
From the time of submission to the time it's approved, they don't have to pay privately for that period.
As soon as the application is submitted, they're in a Medicaid pending time frame. So the nursing homes know they're not going to get paid by the state until the application is actually approved. The person does have to pay during that time. They do pay their income amount. There's an adjusted rate amount of their Social Security pension income. Everyone has different income amounts. So they pay a portion of that to the nursing home and then the state will supplement the difference in the cost to the nursing home. So that's always some sort of a misconception. They say, oh, the state's going to take all of my income. No, that's not necessarily true. You pay it for your care to the nursing home, and then the state will supplement the difference. But they do become Medicaid pending the day the application is submitted, and then the nursing home knows that they are not going to get their big chunk of money for the client, for the residents, until the application is approved, which is why it's so important for us to move as quickly as possible to diminish that time frame.
So as we're talking about Medicaid, the Mass Health application, who is eligible for Medicaid?
So what we primarily deal with are seniors 65 and over, either at home that need medical benefits. Mass Health has 5 or 6 different community programs that they could apply for and qualify for if they need aides to come into the house, help paying prescription plans, if they need the ride, dental, any type of medical. There are a couple of community programs that they can apply for. We primarily deal with the Mass Health long-term care application process. So anyone 65 and over. We do have a few under 65 clients right now that do have long-term disabilities that, unfortunately need to be in the facility long-term, but it's the 65 and over that can't afford to pay $15,000 a month to a nursing home. And that's how we help them with that application process to help get that cost supplemented for them.
In order to be able to qualify for Mass Health, they have to be under a certain amount of assets. Is that correct?
Yes. So they have to be under the $2,000 asset limit in order to qualify, or if they are a spouse still living at home, they have an asset limit of $148,600. So we're able to help work with them to get them to those thresholds.
And a lot of people, they don't really understand the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. And I mean, there are so many myths that go along with each of these programs, right? Like Medicare, people think that, oh, okay, well, I'm on Medicare, so if I need to bring someone into the home, it's going to be paid for. Nope.
No.
And even with Medicaid, you have to qualify for specific programs in order to get, the help that you need. So again, we're talking about nursing homes, but also if you need long-term care, aka an aide to come into your house and care for you for, a couple hours a day or whatever it is that you need, and you can't afford to pay privately, that's where you would go to your elder services and see,
right,
how they can assist with that. But if you can just elaborate on just the core difference between Medicare and Medicaid.
So Medicare is 100 days of rehab. So the Medicare, in conjunction with the supplemental insurance, will cover most of the hospital stay, pharmacy bills, things like that. But then there's usually deductibles and premiums and all of those things that need to be paid for. And if you've got a supplemental plan that has a $1,000 deductible or $5,000 deductible, and you've just been in a car accident and broken your leg, or have fallen and broken your hip, you're still going to have to pay out of pocket for some of those expenses through your Medicare, through your supplemental insurance. Medicaid, Mass Health, is what covers the deductibles and all the other medical expenses, your pharmacy bills that you can't afford to pay for. Again, it's an application process that you need to apply for medical assistance or nursing home care that you don't have $15,000 a month to pay for. So that's kind of the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare, everyone over 65, but they don't necessarily, it doesn't cover 100% of everything. The Medicaid Mass Health covers most of, it's like the third in line for the insurance of what the other 2 insurances don't cover. It's never too early to start planning. Health is looking at because there's such specifics as to the documentation that Mass Health needs. So absolutely, I've had some other people, accountants and, PhD doctorates, that they have been able to navigate on their own. If you've got a parent that has one little bank account and they just pay their monthly bills out of that bank account, and there isn't a lot of moving pieces, then absolutely you can try it on your own. But we the reason why my company exists is because it is complicated. We do have the direct phone numbers and cell phone numbers of all of the Mass Health caseworkers. If there's a question on your case, we can pick up the phone and call them and say, okay, what is it that you exactly need? Or, there's been a transfer of a vehicle, another case that I have right now. There's been a transfer of a vehicle to a child. How can we resolve that? So we're able to work directly with those Mass Health caseworkers to make sure that we know what is needed to get that case approved for you, for your parent, and for the nursing home.
I know that, again, you're not going to toot your own horn, but I'm going to do it for you. You have a stellar track record of the Mass Health applications that you submit getting approved. What is it 98 or 99% or something like that?
I think technically it's like 98.9%. We have processed thousands of applications in the last 8 years. And someone did ask me, like, what's the 2%? Like, yes, you can have this 98.9% approval rating, but what's the 2%? The 2% is actually families that decide halfway through the application, they're not going to cooperate. They're not going to provide us with, if there's a check that was written to a plumber and we need that invoice from the plumber, they're not going to cooperate. Most of the time, those are the families that have taken money out of the account. They're afraid of getting caught. They're afraid of moving forward with the process. They just don't want to cooperate. And we can usually see it as soon as we start to go through the bank statements. We don't judge. We have seen so many transfers of assets. We have kids that have ATM cards that, we have one client that took the ATM card and went to Las Vegas. So we're trying to backtrack and say, okay, I realize what you did. It might have been a mistake, but let's move forward and let's still get mom approved because that's our ultimate goal. So that's the 2%. When families just walk away from cooperating with us with the process and we can't get them approved, or there was a transfer of assets that a house that was transferred within 5 years, and we ask the kids, can you put mom or dad back on the deed? And they say, no, we're not doing that. Those are the 2%. Doesn't happen a lot. Like I said, we've probably processed over 5,000 applications in the last few years. So to have 2% of that is really, it's a good percentage. And most of the families do realize the value of what we bring to the table to help them navigate this process.
Well, undoubtedly, my message to everyone is go talk to Darcia. You will be very happy that you did. And believe me, you don't even want to try to attempt the application process. Just give it to her and her team. They have all the pieces of the puzzle in place to be able to help you succeed.
And the families are so thankful. Every time we get their parent approved or get their loved one approved, they thank us. Like, we have people calling us on the phone. We have families that send us flowers. Some send us wine. Some send us chocolates, brownies, cookies. They're just so, so thankful. One of the most special gifts I got was a keychain. This daughter had sent me a keychain, and she said, you were the key to getting this whole application approved for my mom, and thanked me. So things like that, you realize how much we are helping and how much these families truly, truly appreciate what we do for them.
And as we wrap up here, definitely nice to feel rewarded for the work that you do. And like us at ABC, we're committed to life at home, right? Well, you're committed to your clients as well, and whatever it is that they need. So that is why you're a part of our village. We are happy to be a part of yours. And can you just let everyone know, how can they get in contact with you if they would like to follow up? Because I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to want to talk to you.
So you can contact the office. It's Silver Lining Solutions, and the phone number is 978-887-1100. Our website is www.silverliningsolutions.com. And you can also send an email to info@silverliningsolutionsma for Massachusetts.com. So those are the 3 ways to get in touch with us. You can find us on all of the social media. Our information on our upcoming seminars is on our LinkedIn, Facebook page, and on our website. So please reach out. We'd love to be able to hear from you, help you. Even if you've gotten a denial notice or you're starting to think about navigating, we're happy to help everyone.
781 245 1880.